Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and the January transfer window is officially open. Yes, it is January the 2nd, but I think that today is the day that a lot of people go back to work. So Jim Radcliffe is apparently in Manchester today. But in relation to the January transfer window, all the journalists are heading back to work after maybe a hungover New Year's Day. We were working yesterday. We were there. Happy New Year. But we're getting an influx of stories coming in this morning, and we're going to talk about Erik ten Hag's January transfer plan because he is desperate to do business. You know, he realises that his job is in danger. Massive reaction to the video we did last night about Sir David Brailsford. Very interesting. But we're here to talk about what business is going to get done. And some breaking news, actually, literally just as we came live there, that Manchester United from The Athletic, they're saying that Manchester United are interested in Thomas Muller from Bayern Munich, and also back on the agenda is Choupo-Moting. Also mentioning contact for Timo Werner, keeping an eye on that market as well. And as well, Man United are restricted to 1 or 2 loans in January due to spending regulations. Low-cost strikers looked at include Choupo-Moting, Timo Werner and Guirassy as an option as a sale. I mean, look, I don't think that that's necessarily going to excite you in the chat this morning, and we'll break down all of that. It wasn't where we were going to start the show, actually. We're going to talk about this one in, one out, and Scalvini of Atalanta, Todibo, both centre-back options, Anthony Martial heading out. Welcome to Members Club, Tom. Thank you very much for supporting the channel this year in 2024. Love that. Get your badge in. Appreciate that. Welcome, Tom, and Happy New Year. Muller's about 45, says Shane. I think he's about 34. So I want to talk about that Athletic article, but there's a lot to get into this morning, and what we're basically going to be talking about is the likelihood of Manchester United doing business in January and what they might do. Because I get it, the scepticism, the negativity, the concern, I get all of that. I think it's absolutely, spot on. We are in a really, really bad situation. But what I would say is that when you compare it to the last few January transfer windows, especially last year, where we were actually doing well on the pitch, we were in the top 4, we were, playing Carabao Cup semi-finals, etc. We were doing very, very well, but there was no appetite from the Glazers to do anything in the January transfer market, and so it came to pass. This year, we're doing really, really bad on the pitch, but we have got this new ownership around the football, and there is an appetite to do some stuff. What people don't know is the extent of the stuff we're going to do. Is it going to be embarrassingly weak, desperate stuff, like people would say Guirassy and Werner represent? Or will it be more progressive stuff, like a Todibo Scalvini would be? So let's, that's 2 people, by the way. So let's look at that, because ultimately it will come down to outgoings as well. Mark, on behalf of the community, we love what you do. Please never stop, says Kian. And can I get a quick prediction on the profile of player we'll go for next? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do, Kian. So thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in this morning. Make sure you smash a like. Remember, we're live every morning at 10 o'clock, every night at 8 o'clock. And, you've just reminded me. Big shout out to Kian there. You've just reminded me. Some of the updates we're going to bring you now are from Fabrizio. We've got Fabrizio Romano live on the show at 2 o'clock. He's on the United Stand regularly, but when the transfer window's open, there's no better person to talk to. So we'll be talking to Fabrizio at 2 o'clock live for you, asking the questions you want to be asked. So we will go through everything, whether it's Sancho, Varane, Casemiro, signings, centre-back. So 2 o'clock today, don't miss that, live with Fabrizio. We'll be asking all the questions that we have in relation to these stories. Glad to see this show live. 2 hungover yesterday, so Stevens, definitely back to it today. So look, let's start off with Fabrizio. What is he saying about Todibo? What is he saying about Martial? 1 in, 1 out could be what United do this transfer window. That's my prediction, going back to what Kian said. My prediction's that. Get your thoughts in. Love to read out some of those. But my prediction is that we'll have 1 in, 1 out. Significant 1 in and 1 out. Now, that 1 out could well be Rafael Varane. I'm dead against that. Savage says Scalvini's a good player. We're going to talk about him in a moment. Sportus is not happy about Thomas Muller. But I feel that we will get 1 significant out. Now, in relation to Anthony Martial, Fabrizio has spoken about him and said that the pathway to exit for Martial is there. He's going to leave Manchester United. It could be as early as this month. The Martial situation is littered with danger and pithole traps, I suppose. You've got to be very, very careful what you say about this, because it could just flip around as it has done many times. Remember, Anthony Martial, 2 summers ago, his agent was saying that he wanted to leave. He's wanted to leave quite a few times, and then he's wanted to stay, and then he's got a new contract. So when it comes to Martial, it's very difficult to navigate what's actually going on. What I was told, and I'm happy to share this, and I'm sure many of you predict it as well, what I was told is that Martial could have played over Christmas. Like, this illness thing that's been going on since Bayern Munich, when you compare it to the illnesses that Rasmus has got at the moment, and Rashford's had, and a couple of others have had, this illness of Martial is just, you know, there has to be more to it, because he's been out for 3 weeks. You can be ill for 3 weeks, and we may well get a counter story saying he's really ill. He's got, but the rumor mill around it is that, how can a player be ill for 3 weeks? Rasmus missed the game against Forest because, he literally couldn't sleep the night before. He's not been well. Martial, I just don't know what's going on there. Is it a fallout? It could be. Let's be honest. He said he's wanted to leave in the past. He said to Rangnick came into the club. I mean, another example with Martial as well. When Rangnick came in, Rangnick wanted to use Martial, and Martial was like, no, I don't want to stay. I want to go on loan. And he went to Sevilla. So, Rangnick actually wanted to use him. So the situation with Martial, I think, is that we're just not going to use him. We've got Wigan next, then we've got Spurs, then you're into the middle of the month. I don't think we'll see Martial in a Man United shirt again. I'll be very surprised. That doesn't mean they won't wait till the summer. That doesn't mean he won't play for United again, but I think they're looking to do something in January. The issue they've got with Martial is that you'd like to take 20 million and just get rid of him. The problem they've got is his contract runs out in the summer, and he might very well go, well, if you take 20 million for me, that's 20 million I could have in the summer, so I'm going to sit here and do nothing and walk away for nothing and take the money for myself, which would just be another example of United's absolute inept ability when it comes to selling players. So that could happen, but I think Martial is a player that United are definitely going to be looking to move out in January. And I think Saudi Arabia makes a lot of sense. It's just whether they want to buy him or not. Gareth Southgate, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining. Yeah, his wages are massive as well. So I think removing Martial is problematic, even though the club are desperate to do it. In many ways, Martial just sort of falls into that category of Maguire and Sancho and Rashford and Bruno and, just there's an Anthony, and there's so many players that if you want to sell them, it's very, very difficult to do it, because we've put them on wages that just make it very, very difficult to sell them. So it'd be very, very interesting. McTominay's not on that much money, Decky. That's why I didn't mention him. So look, I think Martial will go. Fabrizio also spoke about Todibo. Now, Todibo is a player that I think is obviously very much high on Manchester United's agenda. He was one of the 3 centre-backs that Ten Hag wanted in the summer. Kim Min-jae, Disasi and Todibo. Obviously, Kim Min-jae went to Bayern. Disasi went to Chelsea. Todibo stayed at Nice. So this is a target that Eric Ten Hag had in the summer before he even knew that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was going to buy 25% of the club. So this is an open goal signing, because obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe owns Nice. So facilitating this deal shouldn't be very hard. Come to Manchester United, let's do a deal. Much the same as Sesko went from Salzburg to Leipzig. You do a deal that's preferable for we're not paying £40 million for him. We should be paying about 25. Nice get a decent fee. We get a good fee as well. So that should happen. There has been talk about Chelsea. Fabrizio has said this morning that there's nothing advanced with Chelsea and Todibo. Obviously, it's very early in the January transfer window, but at the moment, there's nothing advanced with Chelsea and Todibo. So that is still very much a pathway to a signing that Manchester United can do. But this is what I wanted to bring in as well. We can link ourselves to as many players as we want to, but how much money do we have? How impactful is financial fair play? My rough guesstimates, and this is very important, because I don't have the definitive on this, but my rough, and yeah, this is the most important thing. If we don't sell to buy, and this is probably why they're looking to sell Varane, which I find incredible, as we spoke about yesterday. My predictions are United have got less than £20 million to spend in January. That's my predictions based on 2 scenarios, really. One, we couldn't afford Amrabat at the end of the window and we wanted to buy him and he was going to cost 20 million and 25 million and we could only find 10. So that, you know, that was only at the end of August. We had no bloody money. So I don't think we've got any money because of that. And also last January transfer window, we had no money either. So I don't think we've got more than 20 million quid max to spend in this January transfer window unless we sell, which is obviously very, very difficult. And I think that is why Manchester United want to sell Varane. Because really, I think they want to sell Sancho, and I think they want to sell Martial, and I think they could raise 50 million quid there, but they can't get rid of them. So instead of selling the players you need to get rid of to raise the money, they'll go, well, we can't sell Martial, we can't sell Sancho. Let's sell a player that we don't want to sell to raise some money. Let's do a James Garner, which is what we did with James Garner. We didn't really want to sell Garner. We wanted to loan him and see what happened with him, but we couldn't sell anybody else. So you sell the player people want. It's a terrible strategy. When you can't sell the things you don't want, and you have to sell something you do want to raise some money. And again, it's another example of United's ineptitude. Happy New Year. Can't wait for the season to be over, says Lewis. And Sean Turner's back in the chat with a super chat. Thank you, Sean. Good morning. Hope you're doing very well. So the reasons for getting rid of Varane are age and wages. But today we get a story. We're looking at Muller, who's 34 on 280k a week. Does the club think the fans are stupid? Well, Sean, it's a great point. Great way to start the morning. Thank you very much, Sean. And I think it just, you know, adds a little bit more to what I was saying there. I think the reason we're looking to sell Varane is because somebody will give us 20, 30 million quid for him today. Same with Casemiro. They want to sell Sancho and Martial, but they can't. So what do? We get rid of good players and keep shit players because we can't sell shit players. And this has to change. It has to change. But United want to do business now, so it doesn't change because they're desperate. Well, we will change in the future, but we can't get rid of Sancho and Martial at the moment, so we'll sell a player that we can because we need to do something now. And it just compounds the problem. So, look, with Todibo, he's on the borderline. I think if we sell Varane, we probably will get Todibo in this January transfer window because we'll have to buy a centre-back. But part of me thinks I'd wait till the summer for Todibo because the budget will be bigger, and keep Varane until the end of the season because I think Varane is a player that we've seen against Bayern Munich and Liverpool, who is a player that when he plays well now. Whereas if you buy Todibo, adjustment period, etc. So yeah, but they've got it. They clearly have to sell to buy. With Martial, do you think he'll be gone in January? I hope so. I think he needs to go, but he never has strike. I like Martial as a player when he's on it, and I've always defended him. I think he gets picked on way too much, really. But I think in this situation, he's probably not helping himself. And he's certainly a player that seems happy just to sit back and earn the money, doesn't he? And there's a lot of those players at Manchester United. Is there any chance we can get rid of Scott, says Shane? Well, it's interesting that Shane says this. I think Scott McTominay is an open goal to raise money. But I sit here like you, and McTominay wasn't going to be a section on the morning show. But I sit here. I mean, I saw something the other day that Scott McTominay comes from a rich family who are very ingrained in the football world. And I think it was a myth. I think it's a joke. But basically, they were trying to insinuate that McTominay plays for Man United because he's got a powerful family who are friends with Sir Alex Ferguson. And I was like, come on, you know, this is just make believe. But where these conspiracies come from is the despair and confusion about how he survives at Manchester United. West Ham offered £30 million for Scott McTominay. Now, why sell Varane to raise money when you can sell Scott McTominay for 30 million quid and raise money like that? And he is never a Man United player. Like, Varane might be getting old, but he's still a Man United player. McTominay isn't. I mean, this is the player we should sell, but we won't do it. Like, I think Scott McTominay has secretly got magical powers. And I must be immune to them because he seems to be able to get so many managers on side. And look, I know, look, I've got to be very, very fair here. He's a lovely lad. I've never met him and he probably wants to punch me in the face. But the reality is, apparently he's a really lovely lad. And he's well liked. But that's not enough. You know, just because you're a nice lad doesn't mean that you should play for Manchester United. I'd rather have a shithouse who is a complete knobhead, but plays well for Man United. And there's plenty of legends of Man United who are complete knobheads, but they're legends of the club because they played well week in, week out. I don't understand what the vision is with Scott McTominay, but he's been here way too long, and I think he'll stay here for way too long. But you could sell him. There'd be Newcastle have been quite interested. West Ham are interested. There would be £30 million in your pocket for McTominay, and it'd be a good deal for him. He'd play every week at someone like Everton or someone like that. So I don't know why, but we won't do that deal. But it's an easy deal to do. Is there any chance we can get rid of Scott? We've done that. Jack says, Happy New Year to the United Stand crew in the community. Much love from Lexington, Kentucky. Let's have a United 2024. Well, let's hope so, Jack, and Happy New Year to you as well. Just going back to that defensive issue, though, you'll see him on the thumbnail. Giorgio Scalvini, who is a 20-year-old centre-back at Atalanta, has been linked to Manchester United. I mentioned him this morning because it's a news show, but Italian reports and French reports this morning are linking him to Manchester United. Now, I normally really wouldn't mention it that much if it was just Italian reports because he plays in Italy, and as we know with Italian reports, they can be quite mixed unless it's from Fabrizio or Di Marzio, or the other lad who was brilliant in the summer, who I forget his name. This is what happens with transfers. What was the name of the guy in the summer who was really good from Italy as well? Journalist. Someone in the chat will know. But look, I think that what we're looking at here is that United have been linked to Scalvini a few times. We've got a good relationship with Atalanta, Ahmad, Erasmus. So, it could well be Padula. I think it's Padula. That's who it was. Alfredo Padula. That's exactly who it was. Thank you for the shout out. Scalvini makes a lot of sense for Man United. Good relationship with Atalanta. Another good, talented young player coming through. From what I've seen of him, and I haven't watched a lot of Italian football this season, as I said, 20 years of age, very cultured on the ball. You know what? From what I've seen of him, and please don't start saying Goldbridge thinks Scalvini's the next John Stones, but he's that type of a centre-back, if you know what I mean, in the sense that, he's not rapid quick, but he's quick. Reads the game well, good on the ball, right-footed. I believe he can step into the midfield as well. He's that sort of John Stones profile centre-back, really. Whereas Todibo, I think, is more speed. Todibo, I think, is 24. I think he's just turned 24. Scalvini's 20. Scalvini's got a release clause of about 40 million quid. Look, logically, we shouldn't be sat here saying Scalvini or Todibo. If we're going to remove two centre-backs like Varane and Maguire, you should be bringing in Scalvini and Todibo to work with Martinez as our future centre-back options, and maybe keep a Lindelof as a fourth choice. That would be progressive. It would be dangerous to remove Varane and Maguire because of their experience, but if you could remove Varane and Maguire, who are both, Maguire's actually older than Varane, and bring in Scalvini and Todibo, and keep Martinez fit, I think it would be quite progressive. But whether United can do that sort of thing, that's what we're sort of looking to see, whether Manchester United can do that or not. But look, he's an interesting player, Scalvini. He's very young. He hasn't played a lot of football. In fact, he's probably Rasmus as a centre-back, in the sense that he's really only had one breakout season. So he's a good player, Scalvini, and he's certainly a player that clubs around Europe will be looking at. There's no problem with Man United looking at it. The risk is always there. The risk is there with Scalvini. It's there with Todibo. You bring them in from a foreign league and they don't always work. But, it's logical scouting to be looking at that. I would like United to take a step further back with the scouting, because Scalvini's quite obvious in the sense that he's doing a good job at Atalanta and everyone knows it. Todibo's quite obvious. He's doing a good job at Nice and everyone knows it. I'd like us to take a little bit of a step back and start grabbing players for a lot cheaper than they are. But we don't have the scouting network to do that at the moment. Ricky Marino with the super chat says, Hi Mark, no one wants our players. They're probably scared that the mentality curse would rub off on the rest of the team, and I don't blame them. Well, look, if you want to get rid of Jadon Sancho, Anthony Martial, and nobody wants them because they're overpaid and they've got bad mentalities, then you still have to get rid of them. And this is why you talk about things like Qatar or a full sale and billionaire owners, because what you do want to do is you want to bring in an owner that goes, well, I don't care whether we can't sell them. I don't want them here. They're not conducive or positive to the environment that we're trying to build. You spoke about last night about these marginal gains. You're never going to make a marginal gain in a squad that's got players that are toxic. So the video last night was fantastic. We were talking about Sir David Brailsford and his positivity mentality around improving things, but it's never going to happen at United with that squad. You can't make positive gains when you've got negativity in the dressing room. Because even if someone comes in the next day and says, I've looked at my game and I'm going to improve by this, you've got some negative person saying there's no point. You've got to have a positive mentality in the dressing room to make positive gains. Shun says, Happy New Year, Mark, from Malaysia. I'm unreasonably optimistic for 2024, but maybe that's the New Year's mindset. What's a realistic best case scenario for the end of the season for both results and our squad makeup? And Alexander, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for supporting it. You'll get your badge in the chat like Chunky and Chris the Red. Nice to see so many members supporting the channel this year. Tina G, thank you very much. What do I think, just very quickly so I can answer that question from Chun, what do I think is realistic for Manchester United this season? Well, let me just show you this. When I look at, it's a great question just to break up the transfer news. There's the league table for you. I look at that league table and I say that Manchester United are not going to get top four. We've got 31 points. Fourth place is 9 points away. We're not going to get top four. We're not going to get top four for two reasons. One, the points gap is too big. Two, we don't fucking deserve it. So we're not going to get top four. Fifth place could get you Champions League football. We don't deserve fifth either, and that's only 8. That's still 8 points away. Sixth place is probably level this season. We've got to get sixth. I don't want to be in the Conference League, and we can't be out of Europe next year. We're going to play Thursday night football next year. I think that's inevitable. If we can sort ourselves out. I think it's going to get quite interesting in the league because I don't see us infiltrating the top 5, which means 6th place will be us, West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Chelsea. I think we can finish above West Ham, and I think we can finish above Brighton. But Newcastle and Chelsea are going to spend in January, and they could have a good end to the season. So yeah, we could be as low as 8th. We could be as high as 6th, in my opinion. So that's the league, and I think with the FA Cup's massively important to us. We have to beat Wigan next Monday. We've got to stay in the FA Cup. We can't go out of the FA Cup. The FA Cup is all we've got. We got to the final last year. We need to avoid as many good teams in the FA Cup as possible. And, to be honest with you, I'd rather win the FA Cup and finish 8th than would not win the FA Cup and finish 6th. You're still in the Europa League and you've got a trophy. So I think the FA Cup is become massive for Man United. And I'm not ashamed to say that. That's really evidential in relation to where we are as a football club. The FA Cup is massive for Man United, and I'm all in on it. That's all we've got. Yeah. Rooney's gone, says Tim Robinson. That's massive. Rooney sacked. Is that true? His record's been terrible, but let me have a quick look. Well, we've got the podcast out at 2 o'clock, and Wayne Rooney sacked as Birmingham City manager after 15-match reign. Well, it's Man United relevant, isn't it? Wayne Rooney's been sacked. That's breaking news for there. Let me have a quick look at this. So Wayne Rooney sacked as Birmingham City boss after disastrous 15-match reign. Will Brazier, who I do the podcast with and is a Birmingham City fan, he says, from day one it seemed Rooney was the opposite of what we wanted for the club. Rooney had no accountability, and so glad he's not been trusted with a transfer window. Intrigued to see what Gary Cook does next and hopefully makes a more pragmatic decision. Look, I'm quite the only reason I'm mentioning this, because we've got to talk about this Athletic story and Thomas Muller. The only reason I mention this is because, in a way, from a Man United point of view, it's good. Because when Rooney took the Birmingham job, the fantasists started going, if he does well at Birmingham, he can be our next manager. And we've got to stop doing this. We've got to stop thinking about ex-players coming to save us. There is no ex-player out there that's going to save Manchester United. Michael Carrick's doing a good job at Middlesbrough, but come on, we can't keep making mistakes on sentimentality. I I'd love Rooney to done well at Birmingham because you want all ex-players to do well. I wanted Keane to do well at Sunderland. You know, I want Carrick to do well at Middlesbrough. I wanted Rooney to do well at Birmingham. But they're not the solution for Manchester United. The same way Steven Gerrard is not the solution for Liverpool in the future. Jurgen Klopp is the solution for Liverpool. Chelsea's saviour was Jose Mourinho. Man City's saviour was Pep Guardiola. They didn't play for those clubs. Elite level football now is about elite level coaching, and you don't need to have played the game for your club. We don't need that. It would be nice. There's nothing more nice than seeing Roy Keane as the Man United manager when you know he was a legend as a captain, or Brian Robson, but it's a rarity. Man United need to focus on having the best of the best CEO. I don't need the CEO to be Edwin van der Sar. I don't need the director of football to be Gary Neville, and I don't need the manager to be Wayne Rooney. We need the best of the best. But it's sad for Rooney because I think that, you know, it's been a bad time at Birmingham and it could have worked out. Happy New Year to the United Stand in the chat. Says showtime to win. So Rooney's been sacked as Birmingham's manager. That's just breaking there if you're interested in that. Let's get back to the Manchester United news, though. So, look, we were just talking about Scalvini there. Let's see what happens with that. But I don't think that's a summer signing, by the way. I don't think that. I miss Rooney so much. He was so dependable, says Iced Tea. Sir Jim Radcliffe is meant to be flying into Manchester today, by the way. That's a rumour that's going round. In essence, that there is no official announcement from the club around that or anything like that. I think the stance is that logically there's going to be a lot of people from Ineos attending Man United now because the deal's been announced. We know Sir David Brailsford has visibly been seen at the last 2 games. It's logical that Sir Jim Radcliffe will want to be in Manchester. Watch the video from last night if you're interested in all that sorts of stuff. Massive meeting taking place with Ten Hag, and they will basically decide his future in that. Not that they're going to sack him now, but like, you know, they'll decide whether this is the guy they want to build with or whether this is the guy they're going to replace in the summer. So big story coming out about that very, very soon, and logical that that happens. But let's go to this story in The Athletic. A very interesting one indeed, coming out from Laurie Whitwell around Manchester United transfer activity. Getafe would be due 20% of any sale for Mason Greenwood, and so may not be open to an early end to his stay in January. But it's his thought they may be open to an early end to his January, but it's thought a permanent resolution to Greenwood's career is more likely in the summer. I think that's we've said that, we know that. Discussions are expected to take place regarding Greenwood, who is attracting interest from several La Liga clubs, including Barcelona. So that's going on at the moment. Charlie McNeil will be recalled from his season-long loan at Stevenage because he's only started 3 times. They're trying to find another club for the rest of the season. Joe Hugel is expected to go on loan and is expected to sign a new contract. Ten Hag's been impressed with him. And Dan Gore is expected to go on loan this year. Remember, there was this talk of Dortmund, Championship club. Preston are apparently interested, according to Manchester Evening News. That makes a lot of sense to get Dan Gore playing some first-team football 100%. But the big story from The Athletic is that Man United have watched Thomas Muller and may be tempted to ask Bayern about Choupo-Moting as well. I mean, I don't know what this Choupo-Moting thing is, but I file it in the drawer of what the fuck are we doing? Timo Werner, Guirassy, Malen, and Choupo-Moting. I mean, these are Everton signings. These are Crystal Palace signings. What are we doing? And they worry me because actually I would take Timo Werner on loan till the end of the season. I'd probably take Malen on loan till the end of the season, but I don't want to buy Timo Werner, Guirassy, Choupo-Moting, or Malen. Like, these are not the deals that Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City are doing. So why are we doing them? Desperate. We are operating on a tiny budget, needing a striker. So we are looking at tiny budget, cheap options, and none of those names inspire me. You know, if you're Bayern Munich, you're going after Harry Kane. If you're Arsenal, you're going after Tony. If you're Chelsea, you're going after Osman. If you're Man City, you're buying people like Erling Haaland. If you're Man United, you're loaning in Wout Weghorst, Odion Ighalo, and you're looking at Werner, Guirassy, Choupo-Moting. I mean, these are not players that are going to... They're players that could help us out. They are players that can help us out. But we're Manchester United trying to get back to the promised land. And you are not getting back to the promised land with Timo Werner, Choupo-Moting, Guirassy or Malen. It's not going to happen. There's a reason that they're available and there's a reason that they are cheap. And it's either because they're playing at a level that clubs don't want them at the highest level, or nobody wants them anyway. So I just think that, yes, these sort of deals probably will happen, but you've got to look at why they're happening. They're happening because we're cheap. We've done that from Ice Tea. Not a devil, but love all your content, says Goldie. Thank you, LB. And Sheldon, thank you very much for your super chat there. Who would you sign then, says Pratik. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because you're spot on. What else is there to do? The budget isn't there. I mean, look, Pratik, if I'm being honest, you know, spend £120 million on Osman because that's his release clause. That's what we should be doing. But we don't have £120 million. And the only way we would be able to do that is if we'd sold the club to Qatar. If we'd sold to Qatar, we might be buying Osman now. In fact, I'm sure we probably would. And people would say, no, we wouldn't because of financial fair play. Financial fair play is manipulative. Financial fair play, there is a way around. We've seen it with Chelsea. There is a way around financial fair play. The best way around it is the honest way. You know, clear the wages, get rid of the shit, lower the gap between revenue and wages. Oh, there's Osman. Qatar would be able to do that because they've got infinite wealth. You have to manipulate financial fair play. But you can't do it if you haven't got any money. Qatar would have the money to buy Osman. They just have to find a way to make it work with financial fair play. We haven't got the money with Sir Jim and the Glazers, so we can't buy Osman. So what you get is, well, financial fair play stops us buying Osman. Well, no, financial fair play is a factor in us not buying Osman, but the fact that you don't have £120 million to do it anyway is the biggest factor. So, look, Pratik, I would buy Osman, but we're not that football club. So we're going to get Werner or Guirassy on the cheap. And then in a year's time, we'll be saying we're stuck with these players. He's tried to get Sir Jim on the show, says Rupee. Look, I'm sure Sir Jim Radcliffe's going to do some interviews, but I've got to say, the fact that he's contractually obliged not to say anything negative about the Glazers, I do question what interview Sir Jim Radcliffe's going to give that's going to be very insightful, because he's just going to say things like, I want to take Man United back to the top, I want to own the club, blah, blah, blah. You know, no problem with that, but we're not going to get anything juicy from him because he's in bed with the Glazers in a contract that means that he's got to be positive about the Glazers. So I think actions are going to speak louder than words when it comes to this Sir Jim Ineos at 25%, and ultimately that's where we want to be anyway, isn't it? Dybala has got a 13 million release clause. Would you take him, says Jason? Yeah, Dybala's an interesting one. There's no doubting he's a good player. Is Dybala a mentality player? Is he a strong mentality player that's going to come in and, you know, play consistently well week in, week out? I like Dybala. I think there's question marks about the consistency. You know, would Dybala come in and be another Bruno who, you know, is a very, very good player but doesn't play like that every game? Would he be another Rashford who's a very good player but doesn't play well every game and injury prone maybe as well? He's 30 as well. I think that, you know, big wage as well. I think there's too many question marks. Yeah, so I think there's too many question marks about Dybala. It's absolutely pissing it down there again. I'm fed up of this wet Christmas. I tell you. Yeah, so I think as a community, applause. Yeah, I think Dybala is probably one to miss because of the multitude of reasons you've given there. I just don't think it's the right sort of deal for Manchester United to be doing, if I'm honest with you. But look, who knows? Back on screen, I feel that you've got a United side that needs investment, and back on the January transfer window, we've spoken about quite a few options. I mean, yeah, Thomas Muller there. No, absolutely not. Why would you buy Thomas Muller? I mean, that deal. I mean, look, Laurie Whitwell's a good journalist, and The Athletic gets a few good exclusives. But why would you buy Thomas Muller? Why would you loan Thomas Muller? have we not learned anything? I mean, can I just say that's not happening? I'll talk about it because it's coming from a credible journalist in a credible outlet, but that is just not happening. That's like me saying I've watched Harry Maguire because I watch a Man United game. It doesn't mean I'm going to buy him. We're not going to buy Harry Maguire. It's just not. Sorry, we have bought Harry Maguire. We're not going to buy or loan in Thomas Muller because he's 34, he's on ridiculous wages, and he's an attacking midfielder. And we don't need any of those things. So we're just not going to do that. Yeah. And also, we've done it before with Bayern Munich. We've done it with Real Madrid. Schweinsteiger was the prime example of not taking players that Bayern Munich don't want anymore. So, yeah. I've watched Dybala at Juventus, says Tom, and he's too injury prone. So, yeah, forget about that. It's Thomas Muller's not the solution for Manchester United. Dean makes a good point. What about Ruben Neves from Saudi Arabia? Well, look, in relation to the January transfer window, I do That's Football, and I think that the wider window is going to be intriguing because Chelsea want to do stuff, Liverpool want to do stuff, Arsenal want to do stuff, Spurs want to do stuff, Newcastle want to do stuff, and their January transfer window loan market is apparently going to be one we've never seen before. We've got a real... collection of players in Saudi Arabia that want out. Firmino's one. There's a few players that just want to come back into the Premier League. And apparently the Saudi League are quite happy for it to happen because if you loan players from the Saudi League, in their mind, it advances the Saudi League's marketability. I think Man United will be too far down the list, though. Newcastle are going to get priority here. So if Ruben Neves is going to go anywhere, he's going to go to Newcastle because they need a midfielder. So I don't know what Man United are going to do in relation to the Saudi window, but I think the best thing we can do is probably sell players there. I don't see us being high on the list of Saudi to loan players to. I think it'll be Newcastle and maybe a couple of other clubs before it says. But I do think we're going to do stuff in the January transfer window, and I've said this consistently for the last few months. I do think we will do stuff in the January transfer window. You look at last year; it was a mess. It was bad. We Gakpo went to Liverpool, Felix went to Chelsea. We ended up with Weghorst and Sabitzer. We're not going to have that sort of a thing. There's a real appetite to remove some players from Manchester United, and there's a real appetite to try and bring some players in. The big thing for me is that there is no director of football and there is no CEO, and they won't be in place in time. So if I'm Sir Jim Radcliffe, I'm really got to be careful here. And I'm saying to Ten Hag, look, let's try and get rid of Sancho. Let's try and get rid of Martial. That's logical. What's this Varane deal about? Is that because we just want to raise money? Let's discuss that. I would be selling McTominay, but they won't do it. I mean, that's just the easiest sale in January. McTominay, get rid of him, 30 million quid. I don't know. We should be doing that yesterday on January the 1st, but I don't think we'll do it. And then incomings, I think you've got to be so careful on incomings. If you can't get a Todibo, who everybody knows we want and is a good player, I really would be concerned about buying Guirassy for 15 million quid. I mean, buying a player in January when you don't have your new director of football in, I think it's dangerous to do that. So for me, I think if you're bringing players in, Todibo on a permanent deal, I'd sanction that if I was Sir Jim, because, that's a player that we wanted in the summer and it's an obvious player. But signing a striker, I really wouldn't. I'd say no. I'd say loan a striker in, because Mitchell, Blanc come in and go, I never would have authorised that deal. I never would have bought Guirassy. But it happens on Sir Jim's watch. This is not technically a Sir Jim Radcliffe January transfer window, but he's got a veto. He's got a say. So it technically is. So any signing we make in January will reflect on Ineos and Sir Jim. So I think we've got to bring people in, but honestly, I would try and sign Todibo and I would loan in the best attacker you can get until the summer. So maybe it is a Timo Werner, but I wouldn't be buying Guirassy because you're stuck with it then. Tom Edwards, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. And Amit says, Happy New Year. Can't believe it's almost 30 months as a member. How many players will leave, including loan, and we buy on loan in January? I think I've answered that, Amit, but thank you for being a member for 30 months. Well, Donny's already gone on loan. I think we'll see a few of the younger lads going on loan, as we've said, like Dan Gore and Joe Hugel, maybe Mabry as well. I think we're going to sell somebody. I really do. I mean, I'll leave you with that. I think we're going to sell somebody. I think we're definitely going to sell somebody. I think we're going to sell. I mean, we might sell Varane. We might sell Martial. We should sell McTominay, but I think we're going to sell somebody to raise some money. And it's just how desperate that sale is. McTominay is the most logical one because he ain't good enough and you can get money for him. Martial's the best one, but you probably can't get any money for him. Varane's the worst one to sell because we actually need him. He's our best centre-back, but someone will give us money for. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Muller would be on a free contract up, leader and winner. I suspect Bayern would let him go for free in January, says Veghorst. Well, look, Muller on a free in January would be interesting if it wasn't a 2 or 3 year contract. If it was Muller on loan for 6 months, I'd do it because he can play as a 9. But I wouldn't be giving him, even on a free deal, a 2 year contract because his wages will be stupid and he's never played in the Premier League and he's coming towards the end of his career. And I think too many people get wrapped up in the name. This is not Thomas Muller at 28. This is Thomas Muller at 34 that Bayern Munich don't want anymore, coming into a league he's never played in before. How long till he gets injured because the intensity is too much? Like a 6 month deal on loan with an option to buy, I will do that. But I will not take Thomas Muller on a permanent deal just because he's free. We've done this too many times before. Too many times before. It's not progressive. It's stupid. So that's my opinion on that. Get rid of Mabry if he isn't going to be good enough. There's 20 million there, says it's your boy. And apparently Muller's got a contract and signed the new contract as well. I think, as I said, I think it's a complete and utter nonsense story that doesn't make any sense for Manchester United. Mr. Savvy, thank you very much for your super chat. Lots of people checking out the Originals hoodie this morning. The red one's lovely, the black one's lovely, the green one's lovely. But you do, on the back, get a design on the back. I don't know whether you can see it. There you go. It's very, very nice hoodies and nice for the new year as well. And thanks to everyone who's joined the members club today, by the way. Really love the fact that people support the community. We don't do any of that bloody, members only section or content behind a members section. We like to make our content free, so it's helpful when people support us doing that. And you can do that by clicking the join button. Plus you get the notoriety of your badge in the live chat, like ACOS as well. So thank you very much. The only thing we really put behind on the members section is the live shows, and that's because that's a paid event anyway, and it's a little bit of a bonus a few times a year for the members to watch. You can watch the Christmas show. But thanks everyone for watching today. You're legends as always. We've got Fabrizio Romano on the show at 2 o'clock. Do not miss that because you're going to get the proper updates on Todibo, Scalvini, Martial, Sancho, Varane, Casemiro, McTominay, Muller, Choupo-Moting. You're going to get all of that. I started out 2024 the best way. I had my 42nd birthday, says Matthew. Happy birthday. And Ricky says, I say we take a chance on Jude Bellingham's brother. Get him cheap now. Well, I think we will ask Fabrizio about that one as well. Kobe Bellingham as well. We were linked to him a few weeks ago. We spoke about that exclusively, didn't we? There's one more thing I want to bring you as well. It's just gone out on the Twitter account for Manchester United, for the United Stand. United Stand can confirm that Sir Jim's plan is over the next week or so to start meeting Man United staff and employees and have meetings with them. So there you go. Over the next week or so, Sir Jim will be having those meetings. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back at 2 o'clock. Fantastic show this morning. Don't forget as well, we've got the Goldbridge Saves Football podcast, the first one of the new year. Can't wait to get that out. It's going places in 2024. Goldbridge Saves Football podcast. We started it last summer. I know a few of you watch it. It's going places in 2024. It's about to go to places you've never seen before. Literally seen. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you at 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock tonight as well. Back to normal now in the new year, and lots to discuss. It's really hotting up in the transfer window, so make sure you're subscribed, got your notifications on. We could be live at any time. Ultras, if you know, you know.